On this episode of Cuba Cerita, we invite three successful young professional entrepreneurs who are former Renong Group scholars. Danial Idris Nik Norezreen Nik Adnan and Ellisha Othman were among the hundreds of Renong Group scholars from the 90s who successfully completed their tertiary education and entered the corporate workforce. However, after serving for their years as corporate professionals, they decided to move on from the corporate leadership pipeline to become self-made entrepreneurs. Today, Alhamdulillah, they are successful in their respective fields, combining hard work, challenging business environments, and ultimately pursuing their passions. These breakthroughs in life are what the Merdeka in me is all about. So let's watch and listen to their stories, be inspired, and hopefully build the courage to pursue our own dreams just like the three of them. Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera, and welcome to this latest episode of Cuba Cerita. MashaAllah, we are so blessed. We actually have a live audience with us here this morning where we're shooting this episode at the Bayang Coffee Company in Taman Tun Dr. Ismail. So thank you all of you for joining us, and we look forward to another lovely episode. It's a very special episode, I must say, because for the first time, we're actually hosting more than one guest together, and there's a reason, as I'll reveal later. But more importantly, this episode also coincides with the overall theme of Merdeka in Me as part of our second season. So we are looking towards hearing stories about, yes, what does Merdeka mean to us all, but more importantly as individuals, from a personal perspective, what may be hurdles or breakthroughs in our lives and career that have made us the person that we have become today. Alhamdulillah. So please join me in welcoming our lovely three guests. First of all, in no order of importance, but nevertheless, ladies first, Ellisha Othman. She's the founder and managing director of Thrive Well, a health and wellness service provider. We have Nik Norezreen. She is the founder and business enterprise owner of Telekom Nori. And the gentleman with us this morning is Danial Idris. He is one of the founders and the creative director of DW Event Management. And DW, as you may already recognize the name, has been our partner with iCoach KL to help produce these episodes of Cuba Cerita. So welcome all three of you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's really a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for and as the audience will come to know after this, I've actually known all three of you for many years now. Alhamdulillah, all three of you are actually former Renong scholars, and you come from the era of the 1990s, post the Asian financial crisis. I still remember, those days when you were still young executives in Renong UEM. I was slightly older, senior age-wise, but a little less talented maybe, I don't know, compared to you guys today. But it's such a pleasure seeing all three of you again, and I really thank you for making time to join us. So, in the usual manner, what I'd like to do is to introduce all three of you in our own little way. Nothing beats sharing maybe some stories about who you are, where you originate from, and maybe even some fond memories of your early formative years. I often also like to ask maybe what are certain traits or memories that you learned from your parents, for example. So maybe Ellisha, tell us, are you a KL girl or?
Well, we always say KL girl, but technically Subang Jaya.
Okay.
Yeah, so
okay.
Grew up in Subang Jaya, went to school in Subang Jaya before I went to college at Saad. And I think that time it was like in the 80s, right? My parents moved before I was born. It's a place where nobody is a native, right? It was a new residential
new area.
New area. And everyone was from different parts of the KL. Although there's a big population of those working in the aviation industry because of the airport.
Okay.
And I think that really gave me an experience of diversity. For example, after school, because both my parents work, so if I need to kind of have extracurricular, I'll be staying with my best friend's place, and they had dogs. There was not an issue because my mum would say like, balik sama je lah. That was a problem. That trusting auntie, my friend was Jane, and then trusting the auntie. I can't even remember her name, but the auntie was so nice. Just having me there. So I think that diversity of people growing up, and even my parents themselves, and because we live in Subang Jaya, near to the airport, the house becomes a transit. With my family daripada kampung, kawan-kawan, my dad's college friends. It's every weekend there's always someone there, whether it's a family, it's a friend. So we've always had this openness to people from everywhere. So I think that's something that yes, and maybe that's also something why I'm always interested in people.
Interesting. Were your parents in aviation?
No, my parents my mum was working with TNB and my dad was with MMC, so I guess they're the nation builder generation. And she being I think the first woman in her family to go to university. And really having that courage, right, to travel around Malaysia, in the 70s as a young woman.
Can imagine.
And she tells me the stories that actually I wanted to quit my job and all that, but having to go to like Kelantan, Terengganu, driving on her own. So when I hear these stories, I always feel encouraged that the limitation is always you put the limitation yourself. And also I have to credit my late father. I'm an only child, so I think that is also why I never felt the difference of he always says the social norm is that sometimes there's gender roles, male, female. Of course it's important to know that because that it serves a purpose. But you have your own potential. Think of, despite limitations and barriers, you have your potential. So always think about how, if you want to make a change, you have to do it. Sometimes other people may not be able to do it, but you can hopefully influence and inspire other people to do it. But the change always starts with you. So I think having both this support from my parents, I would, like I said, credit, that worldview, outlook of life from them.
And it's only on instances like this where you actually reflect, because you don't talk about it every day, right? When you think about it, mashallah, there were just so many lessons along the way that we can now embrace what our parents either showed us or even without even having to tell us, kan?
Yes.
Nick, you are like second generation UEM. Your father, Nik Dan, was one of the senior leaders in Renong UEM in those days. So you followed him into the group. I'm not sure what they followed, but you were opportunity had to to join the group. So tell us, I mean, what was life like growing up in your family? Did you come from a large family?
I'm an eldest of 5 siblings. So relatively large family. For like Ellisha, I'm also identified as a Subang girl. So for Subang population, then having 5 siblings is quite a big family. To say that I follow my father's footsteps, probably not really, because initially I wanted to be a doctor.
Really?
So I don't know how I end up with a scholarship doing finance. But that landed me in UEM, and I'm forever grateful for that, because that is, I have to say, that served as a solid 5 years experience for me before I embark on my entrepreneurial journey now. If reflecting back, my father was a typical corporate guy. He's the person who dress very smartly. He's all about this ethics and all about this discipline, and he really instilled in me about working hard. Whereas my mother is the opposite of it, which is she's more relaxed. I learned a lot about composure from her, which is something that is very important, especially being in corporate or even in business. So I'm lucky to have a balance from both of them from the start. And that's how I basically decided from corporate to business, because I am able to see the balance in them. Because my mother was actually she was working before. It's very I started my childhood in Kelantan. So back in Kelantan, my mother was working as a factory manager.
Wow.
So it's very rare to have a lady working, you know, at that kind of level in Kelantan, while mending 4 kids at that point. Yeah, so I see that early on how she managed that. Eventually, she opened her own business, and then again, I get to witness how the journey is, and looking at my father building, you know, from the very bottom. He was in telecom, and then he joined, I think UEM after that, you know, from one company to another. So this serves me as like sort of like a pathway, like which to choose. But eventually I chose my own.
Alhamdulillah. Are both your parents from Kelantan?
Yes, they are both from Kelantan. They are both Niks, but they're not related. And I do speak good Kelantanese. Yeah.
Kecil Kelantan.
Boleh.
Mine's fail. Mine fail. But no, I just want to point out one thing I do observe in Kelantan tradition. The ladies, the women are actually very enterprising. A lot of them are entrepreneurs, and you know, whenever I visit Kota Baru, I can see even wherever you go, pasar, everywhere, they are the ones who are running the businesses dengan gelang-gelang emas. Amazing, kan? That's very distinct for Kelantan.
True. Yep.
Dan is not from Kelantan.
No, not from Kelantan.
He almost went to St. John's, but he went to VI instead. But please, Dan, I'm going to kacau you this morning. Tell us a bit more about who Danial Idris is.
Danial Idris. People call me Dan.
Yeah.
Dia orang dari Subang. I'm right across. I call myself KL boy, tapi actually daripada Ampang.
Ampang
So grew up through and through Ampang. I'm the eldest as well. But I grew up in a family. My family tak besar, 3 adik-beradik. But my mum has been a government officer ever since, sampai pencen. But my dad, he's actually one of the most popular tuition teacher in Ampang. So this is interesting, reflecting back, because I literally grew up in a tuition center because it's in our house.
Okay.
So this post-recession and stuff. And then, so when we were growing up, you know, I literally have the whole, if you're old enough to know Popular Bookstore, you know,
bookstore?
yeah, I mean
Still
the big bookstore and all those old ones. So I literally have all the Preston Sasbadi books in my house.
Okay.
And I have like everyone's having tuition there, being quizzed by my dad and everything. So the expectation for me and my brother is very high, so that you anak cikgu tuition kena pandai lah. So that sets this drive for kind of perfection or excellence from small. So we have no choice. We kind of have no choice. Sorry ma, pa. That we have to make sure dapat nombor 1, you know, that kind. So that has been the trend dari kecil sampai besar. So that also give me that perspective where macam Nik juga, because my mom has been a government officer, but my dad is a businessman. So I see from small like, wow, this is something like you don't really have to go to office, but you can also do business. I don't really get it that time, but it's interesting to see, because at one time I think my dad had like 140 students in the house.
140 students?
Yeah, I mean,
oh my goodness.
That's a lot. Yeah, and that also make us one of the popular kids in Ampang because everybody knows us, right?
Banyak abang-abang lah.
Yeah, like abang-abang so hi Dan, oh hi, you know? So that's how I grew up lah. Went to VI, and then, you know, continue with the Renong Scholarship those days, before it turned to UEM. But Alhamdulillah, I mean, I have to shout out to even Coach. I mean, those audience who doesn't know, you know, Coach has, you know, was one of my boss before. Boss for all of us, right?
As I said, I was the older one.
Yeah. So Coach has been very important in terms of mentoring, not only boss, as a mentor. So I think there was the turning point for me in reflection is, there was a point where because we were grooming to become CEOs and, you know, those days, even though we don't really understand what it means at that point of age. But there was a point where we have this program and then you send us to, you know, do respective projects. So I was sent to KRU. You know, shout out to Norman. So I learned huge amount from Norman. And that's where I got, in touch with events and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's where everything begins.
Yeah,
And
that's where you are today, alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
This is the thing, kan? Obviously, yes, I was a few years older and I could see things, and I had the opportunity of also leading the Yayasan UEM at one point where we would go through the motions of, identifying new scholars. I have to say, and I don't mean to make you feel uncomfortable, but fair enough, all of you would have come from, good schools, top students in your respective schools. But one thing that resonates a lot from the selection of all of you was there's something different about you. And I remember even as the foundation CEO, we were anxious because we knew we would lose this talent if we don't do something about it. And in a way, because we knew that you all were curious, you were energetic, you were enterprising, and we can't just confine you to a pure corporate role. All three of you, alhamdulillah, you served your dutiful number of years in UEM Renong, and yes, then Ellisha and Nik, many of your colleagues today who remain in the corporate world are CEOs, and alhamdulillah rezeki masing-masing, kan. But it's not surprising that you are amongst some of those who decided to go out on your own and take that plunge and even in a way bear with what came without knowing what's lying ahead. So maybe that leads me into again maybe starting from then, just you briefly mentioned about you being assigned to work with Norman Halim in KRU, and again shout out again, thanks to Norman. But just for the benefit of the audience, we actually had this program called the Emerging Leadership Program, and it was meant to actually tailor a program suitable to all of you to actually prepare you for your future. And it was one of those programs which I think personally I was very engrossed in it, making a success of it. But tell us then, that particular part in terms of a breakthrough for you, what are fond memories about how you were at that time, and what did you actually learn in reflection that helped shape who you are today?
I think on that note, I think I want to thank this particular person as well, which is Dato' Ahmad Pardas, because he was the group CEO at that time, who actually endorsed I think 40 of us going out and do our own thing for 6 months. That was quite huge, and then was lucky to also being sent to Norman. That's where I met Arwah Bait, our friend by Indigo. I even met Shah, Liza Hanim, so all those very strong individuals in terms of event, and but notably Norman and the brothers. When I was there, I'm supposed to be his macam executive assistant, and then I learned how they do things there, because we came from corporate background, and then going to KRU is totally different. It's a different world. It's kind of culture shock a bit for me initially.
Imagine.
First day I was in my suit and tie and everything, and then second day I'm already in jeans and t-shirt and colour rambut orange or blonde, I can't remember. So that was also a culture shock to my mom, but I survived. But what I want to highlight is that's where I got full experience of the business world. They are very heavy in terms of music and film, and I'm particularly interested in events and advertising. So I was exposed to all this sort of type of events and how people produce events technically, But the most interesting thing that I learned from Norman is how he conduct himself as a businessman. It's a family business, adik-beradik, the sisters all there, and building at that point I think 70-80 orang, growing very fast. Like how he conduct himself in terms of macam ethically, in terms of managing people, in terms of coming up with good ideas. And the best part that I think that hit me the most is how he can literally sell anything.
Yeah.
He can just, go into a room full of people and he just wow the crowd and then just present his ideas.
Yeah.
I think because he probably not only understand it, but he actually like he feels it.
Yeah.
It's like macam dia buat benda tu ikhlas. Dia betul-betul nak tolong the client. So that is one thing that I try and carry, adapt until now. Even with my team, we say every time we do anything for our client, you kena macam nawai tu, you kena betul, you kena ikhlas. You have to do to the best of your ability. KRU was very big in that because the name, right? So dia tak boleh slack. They have to like really perform. So that's what I think I learned most. But I get this excitement when I see numbers, I see like macam boleh buat duit dekat sini. Just suddenly I'm like, hey, actually there are more than corporate world. There are things outside there that that excites me. And of course after that I came back and joined back UEM Land.
Not for long.
But I met another interesting gentleman which is my mentor as well. Arwah Datuk Wan Abdullah. That was during UEM Land before merging with UEM Sunrise. 2 years there give me another perspective of how corporate world is run, how company suddenly double in size and everything. So these two experience I think gave me the foundation and the reason to do whatever I do today and how I conduct myself with my team and how I try to grow my business.
Fantastic. And Nick, obviously, tell us something. When you decided to go out on your own, what about the environment around you? Was it very supportive, or by the time I presume you were married, you had children already again? So tell us a bit more. What was it like in terms of that importance around support around you to get these sort of things going?
Right. Kalau nak diikutkan, it's not like the decision to actually go out and explore the world outside is not really. It's actually something a snowball since college years.
Really?
Yes. I've always had this entrepreneurial streak since high school. When you have like Hari Guru, sibuk lah kita jual apple lah, jual gifts for I'm always in the fundraising stuff, because I'm very enterprising, I must say. So I can actually foresee that being, if I may use the word confined in the corporate world, I might not be able to do this much. So but I have to say I did start something on the side when I was already working. Masa tu we don't have like TikTok ke Shopee ke, so I start selling clothes using blog. I just had my first son masa tu, and what I was doing was just like I wanted to buy some clothes for him, and then say, oh, actually if I were to buy this in bulk, what would be your price? Then one thing leads to another. So it was just doing something for the family, and I enjoy it. But I soon realized, based on a conversation I have with a dear friend. Actually, he's here today.
I know. Okay, tell us the story.
So, back in college years, actually, I was having this conversation with Daniel about financial freedom. He was actually relating to me about this book, Robert Kiyosaki.
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Rich, yes.
Okay.
I didn't quite get it at the moment, but he was so enthusiastic about it. So I was like, okay lah, I read up a bit lah, and I was like, okay, yeah, actually there's a lot of ways to go about it in life, because we are so used coming from a good school, then we alhamdulillah back the scholarship, so it's kind of like the path, like, and then you soon climb the corporate ladder, but at the same time, I said like, but that's another area that we can look at. So going into corporate, I always have this at the back of my mind. So 5 years too was really about am I going to stick with this? Am I going to do? So I really throw myself in. I also signed up for the Emerging Leadership Program, and that program gave us the opportunity to move around and see all sorts of function. I was with procurement before in Pharmaniaga.
Okay.
So it was interesting, but it was really dry for me because it's just about buying stuff. But I learned a lot about negotiation though. Yeah, and do project management, costing, and that kind of thing. So being in the Emerging Leadership Program exposed me to other functions. That's why I was attached to strategic business development. And also business development under coach. So I began to see things in bigger picture, and also I signed up for a special project selling medical equipment. That was our special project that we have to propose to the board at that time. And then I find out that I kind of get my calling then. And going back to your question about support, definitely my mother can see that this has been in me from from young. It's just that puaskan hati papa lah. Masuk corporate sekejap. But yeah, I just need to serve my bond, and I really need to see what's in it for me. But deciding to come out later, I get tremendous support from everyone. So it wasn't an issue for me, Alhamdulillah.
You know, all three of you are highly qualified finance and accounting professionals. And I remember you, Ellisha, you were in corporate finance. And at the time when we were doing a lot of structuring of new deals and restructuring of the group, I could see that you were talented in other ways. Don't mean to embarrass you, but you have a very nice voice, so you would sing at some of our functions and events. But today, with Thrive Well, wow! I mean, it's like a totally, minta maaf lah, a different perspective and world that I see. So tell us, how did you, what prompted you, what were awareness that made it important for you to venture into this field?
I think that decision definitely surprised everyone, including my peers. But I think, especially my peers, I think they kind of have sensed it because they know me very well. I think it began, like I mentioned, also my family background, right? I've always been interested in people. I grew up with 4 adults in the house, my parents, 2 adult aunts, actually 5, and a helper who was with us for 15 years. Alhamdulillah, she's like part of family. She came from a B40 family. I think maybe like tak habis sekolah pun. But how my mom actually taught her how to, to have better literacy, send her for sewing classes, kind of taught her a bit of financial literacy that she can go for haji, and now she is back in her kampung owning a few acres of sawah padi.
Amazing.
Being a domestic help. So I think when I saw that firsthand, right, how that transformed her life from a person who didn't complete school to owning her own land and retiring happily now, I think that gave me an insight into my privilege. Only child, had all the attention of everybody. In fact, too much attention. Most of the time, I'm hiding somewhere. I was pretty mediocre in Subang, Jaya, I have to say. I was a wallflower, tak kisah about people, whatever. But I think a big milestone was when I was then sent to College Yayasan Saad. I think my parents said, I think you need to open your eyes a bit more and see what the world is like. And this is where I met Nik. And this is where, there's a lot of intersection with Nik's story, right?
I'm sure.
So, because she was heading the counselling club.
Yep.
At that time. And that was my first, what do you call it, like exposure to mental health. So we had a counsellor, Miss Lai, at that time. And of course, teenagers, angsty and all that, were like, always rebelling against things that were supposed to support you. And I think through this exposure, and particularly in that school, there had a lot of students from everywhere, different backgrounds, particularly socioeconomic status. And again, I was being made aware of my privilege again. Because they are, I had tuition lah, like all the good support. And okay, I get A's. But some of my peers at that time were sometimes cuti sekolah pun tak balik rumah. Because the school had to provide some support if they were to balik kampung for Raya. And my parents came every month, bawa food for everyone. So I think that really gave me that insight that, hey, something's wrong with this world that like why are these resources kind of allocated to certain people, right? So in a way, I already had the interest in social science, if you have to use a word for it. I wasn't sure, was it journalism, was it history, was it social development? But as a 16, 17-year-old, of course, tak tahulah. And then so I was again privileged because of my race, because of the school that I went to. I got the Renong Scholarship, and having this cohort of like-minded peers, different personalities but very like-minded. There's always macam what do you call it? Brainstorming ideas, right, about many things. So in our A-levels college in KYUEM, Nik and I, she said fundraising, right? I wanted to help people. So both of us started a club.
Really?
Literally, like we went to the management. Hey, we want to start this club. It's called Our Club. Okay, just like Our Club. Just, what do you do with this club? Okay, we want to help people. People who are underprivileged. Okay, we don't have money. She's gonna think about that. I'm gonna think about how to help.
Wow.
So she fundraised. I think we sold chocolates.
Yep.
And personalized
Messages.
greetings. Because at that time there's a lot of crushes, right? People crush. So we're gonna be so I'm the confidential person. I will send this to your crush, but pay us. So that's the beginning, right, of connecting people. Connecting people. So I guess from there, and then I went to UEM. I learned from my ex-boss Raja Azmi what good leadership is. He always spends time coaching, mentoring, and all those lessons in corporate development strategy. I'm actually putting it into the organization at Thrive Well. And why is it important? Because I always say UEM, right? Nation building partner.
Yes.
That's the title, right? You're building infrastructure, building system. At that time, especially when they first started, in a country that didn't have infrastructure. And when I joined mental health, it's the same thing. It's like physical infrastructure in 1960s. Mental health, the disparity between mental health and physical health is huge. A lot of people are not aware. So I thought if I just come in and retrain as a clinical psychologist, that's all good. I know how to provide service, but I need to start learning how to build systems. Because there's only
structure
services.
in place,
Exactly.
continuity, kan?
Yes, structure and continuity. And my Renong cohort, we call ourselves the sevens because we're batch number 7s. There's so many coffee chats, dinners, lepak kat rumah. And all the ideas is actually I get from them because they're from different industries, trying to giving me inspiration to be able to expand the services better. And it's challenging because I think when I first made that move, I think the sevens were the most supportive. My own mother, until today, when do you want to get a real job? She keep asking, when are you gonna get a real job? I think she stopped asking last year. That's like my 10th year in the industry.
After Cuba Cerita, she'll be
yes. My family members as well, because most of them are from Johor. Yes, you know Johorians are corporate or government. Business is not a thing. It's like corporate or government. So they're like business and someone working dengan orang gila. Some of them ask me, you're working dengan orang gila. I'm like, okay, first I need to educate you. So it's I'm faced with stigma. I'm faced with an industry that is very immature or at its infancy. But the adversities is that I see opportunities. And when we change those lives of our clients, of our communities, that's when like Dan said lah, the intention tu kan, the niat tu. Yes.
I'm going to come back, and after this I want to really dive a bit deeper into what all of you do. But before I lose this train of thought, I think it's very important not to forget one particular name, who is Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Halim Saad. Because Alhamdulillah, dengan rezeki Allah bagi, through him, he was very passionate about education, building the insans of the people, and he was also, and he, till today I'm sure, he is still very hands-on in terms of how continuing education is so important, not just beyond, it's well beyond the A's. But even, to be honest with you, actually sebenarnya I was one of the beneficiaries of the MBA Renong Scholarship, so I've got so much to be thankful. So again, Tan Sri Halim, I'm not sure whether you're able to watch it, but terima kasih banyak-banyak atas jasa Tan Sri kepada negara. I'd love to now, since we've got a huge audience this morning, they all are here as part of the Thrive Well family, can I ask a bit more detail Thrive Well, its origins, and exactly what is it that you focus on in terms of your services to the community at large?
So Thrive Well is a social enterprise, and we have 3 co-founders, myself, Ivy Tan, who is a TTDI local as well, and also another KYUEM alumni, Joanna Ibrahim. And
Joanna, yes.
when we co-founded this, it was because Ivy and I have been working at that point in the mental industry for 10 years. And what we wanted to, I guess our mission is really to build we call it trauma-informed mental health services, but essentially what it means is that mental health services that really addresses the barriers to access or improve the protective factors to get access. Because mental services is available,
Right.
but it's only, I guess, for lack of a better word, available for people who have the means, the money.
Right.
Yeah, because it is a luxury. Therapy is expensive.
Yes.
But how we want to reach out to people is that these services can be developed into programs. It can be developed in the workplace. And as we're building an infrastructure of mental health, actually we look at, for example, how do we bridge the divide, right, of access to mental health through the basic needs. Yeah, so that's why we have 3 pillars of service. So one is our private practice. So we have Liana, our head of our director of clinical services here, and she's ex-PwC auditor.
Wow.
Yeah, and why? Because private practice you need to have quality control, clinical assurance,
Yeah.
detail to quality, and that's providing services to individuals and families, as you know, like therapy. The second arm is the corporate services, so where we provide consultancy and training to companies. Because we spend a lot of time in the workplace, and actually workplaces should care about their employee
Even more
well-being,
so,
because it has a correlation to productivity.
Yeah.
If you have problems
Yeah.
at home, I'm sure all of us have
Exactly.
experienced that. We
Yeah.
bring it to the office or to the workplace. So that's one the service. And why we're a social enterprise? Because these 2 commercial arms actually supports our work in the community. And we are in 10 PPR or low income communities. And I think right now we have served around we have reached out to around 1,000 beneficiaries,
MashaAllah.
providing access to people who otherwise would not be able to have that service due to many barriers in their lives. So in a way, yes, we provide mental services, but with that additional part of really understanding how we want to provide quality, effective, and timely service.
Yeah, and I was browsing through your website. There are all sorts of different areas of services. I mean, with the commerce therapy, even down to financial literacy.
Yes.
Also, kan, mashallah, coaching,
Yeah. So we
career
partner
guidance.
exactly. So we always partner. We have partners that we work
Yeah.
with to ensure. So I always tell my team it's like a sandwich model.
Okay.
You have to serve mental services with something that the individual or the community values.
Yeah.
So for example, in our community development team under our keluarga akrab mencapai impian, the focus is that your family will be well.
Yes.
But before they enter our program, they probably join a program with our partner who does entrepreneurship. So from entrepreneurship, then they join the mental program,
Right.
and only then it becomes effective. In the workplace, for example, before we provide to the employees the one-on-one, we do coaching of the management. Because
Really?
if the management has a buy-in of what mental health is,
Yes.
they will then make it a culture that employees can access that safely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to address what's the barrier lah.
Root causes also.
Root
kan?
causes, yeah, root causes, yeah.
And you know how it is, kan? Unfortunately, this sort of how should I say,
Stigma.
requirement, stigma, it
Yes.
exists for years.
Yes.
Today we are more aware of it.
Yep.
I think it's a bit more like people are also open to talking about it,
Yes.
kan? And not being embarrassed, to be seen in a different way,
Exactly.
kan? So congratulations lah. And I think one thing, Ellisha, I've known you over the years and I've observed you from afar. You have really diligently taken this step by step, and put it this way lah, we don't know everything at the beginning, kan? Tapi as we go, we learn, and you are taking in other people's ideas, and inshallah you will continue to thrive well. With
Inshallah.
thrive well, kan? Yeah. Nik, you are in your business, okay? It's in the telekung and hijab business kan, which is a very, how would I say, saturated market in many ways. Tapi alhamdulillah, in your own way, you managed to create your own niche, and I know you're doing some other stuff to help you along the way. So please tell us your story.
Yeah, yes, it is a very saturated market, but I started fairly early actually. When I was still working, when I left UEM, I didn't immediately dive into my own venture. So I was sort of like working for my family. So I was in my family business, but they are also doing, what they were doing was actually government contracts, supply of linens to hospitals. So that's how I get to know fabrics and stuff. And my mother came also from the background of merchandising factory. So we basically main dengan kain lah. So how I got about to go into telekung, specifically telekung actually. To this date, we haven't started with any tudung or anything. So I get asked a lot, often, you jual telekung je? How can you like jual telekung je? Ada korang nak beli telekung hari-hari? That kind of thing. But alhamdulillah, this is our 11th year, in the industry. For me, it's about, like you mentioned, creating your niche. And niche comes about from demand. I started this business, telekung Noreen, simply sebab I sendiri nak cari telekung yang kuat, yang cukup labuh and cukup lebar, susah. So macam I thought like, okay, probably because of plus size, nak cari susah. But eventually when I started this, firstly my immediate family members, my cousins, they are all tall ladies. So they're like, mana beli? Mana beli? So I created this my own. So one thing leads to another, and soon I realized that actually there's a demand for this, not necessarily for plus sizes or tall ladies. There are people who actually prefer it that way. So for me, yes, saturated market, but no, if you manage to curate your own niche.
And I know you also not just about this, but you have also continued to learn other complementary skills to help your business. So please.
I learned that business or product is just a vehicle of what you're doing in this world. So firstly, I chose telekung because I feel like, well, it's kind of obvious. Telekung kan untuk orang solat. So I always have this soft spot for it. Although along the years orang kata, why don't you expand, why don't you tukar jual this kind of, but for me like it serves a different purpose for me. And along the way, yes, like you mentioned, alhamdulillah, I pick up a few skills along the way, especially in social media, because I was building Noreen solely on social media. We didn't have much, we didn't invest much in like advertising yang huha sangat ke apa ke. It was really about connecting on social media. So in this current world where people are talking about advertisement, about paying people to market your stuff, I always believe that you are the best ambassador of your own product through what you can offer. And now we have this amazing platform, which is social media. So then I realized that if I can do this for telekung, which is like a very, very niche product, imagine if I were to adopt this to other industries such as F&B or skincare. So I started and my friends start asking me, how do you do this? How do you do this? Because we have a circle of entrepreneur friends, and what we do is normally we bounce ideas lah. How do you do that? How you do this? And then one thing lead to another. They said like, why don't you just handle it for me lah? So now I'm also doing consulting for social media for small businesses, because like Ellisha mentioned, when you go through something firsthand, you see that there's very lack of support in some area. that's what I wanted to do now. I just want to lend my support because I was there. I was there building my business from 20 pieces telekong to, now, Alhamdulillah. So these small businesses, they might not, although it's a very common thing now kan, everything, you can ada TikTok, you can ada Instagram, Facebook semua, but how? So sekarang ni, this is what I'm doing lah. I'm just lending my help, my service to actually walk them through as how I did it before. Bukan dari segi macam like, mentoring, coaching, apa semua macam big picture. I walk them through like stage by stage. Macam mana I rasa dulu. Yeah.
So that they experience it.
Exactly.
And they learn the nuances.
Yeah.
And of course, amongst your beneficiaries is also cuba cerita. we also realize that, and especially I'm so illiterate in this, we really realize that we could really benefit from your ideas and techniques of how we can promote what we are trying to do even more lah. Okay, Saudara Danial Idris, the man who's always behind the scenes is in front of the scenes. Now, maybe Dan, from your perspective, when COVID happened, events came to a standstill, and you were already building your business with your brother. Alhamdulillah, you had people who you were responsible for. Tell us a bit more about how you saw it. And what did you do in those times to still remain relevant now?
Oh, that was a tough question. Because COVID hits really bad. The thing about COVID, obviously, event, for those who doesn't know, I do mainly events and advertising with Damien, DW, but I also have another agency with Fila, which is my cousin, Smoky Events. So I run 2 agencies for now. But when that hits, suddenly tak boleh keluar rumah, so obviously tak ada events, and all events became online events. Online meet, online events. But people say like, still ada event kan online, but actually that is more like IT business. Like pakai Zoom, it's not really event management. The thing about it is because it's very lonely jadi entrepreneur ni. At that point, like not only events, a lot of industry tiba-tiba shut down. Like what do you do kan? We were so lucky that a few years, 1-2 years leading up to COVID, we had, like Alhamdulillah, we got some good events going on, so we had some savings, put it that way. But the hard part about COVID was not about the COVID itself. The hard part was bila dia habis. We don't know.
Yeah.
So like, is it another month? Is it another 2 months?
All
of us watch TV, right?
Like after COVID.
Now boleh pergi jogging tapi still tak ada event. Now kena pakai mask but still cannot event.
Yeah.
So it's like we don't know what's the end. So 1 month become 2 months, 2 months become 6 jadi 1 year, 1 year jadi 1/2. So I was like, and my mom was like, nak kerja tak? Maybe you should go work. Like how your mom asked. My mom stopped asking me, I think 4 years ago. Before dia asyik minta duit kan, mak nak bayar khemah, But so yeah, there's a good question that I don't know how we survive. We did try a few things. We try to innovate. We try to sell food, pack food, and start selling merchandise. Start, do something different. Become consultant, but it's never that lah. Yeah.
But one thing I do remember then, and maybe this is me outside looking in, kan. One thing about you I recall was that you were also concerned about your team, because you already had a team of supply partners. Yeah. And your rice bowl, yes, was affected, but what about theirs?
Yeah.
So I remember distinctly, you actually, because we could still go out and deliver, so you use those skills kan to actually logistically sell things. And I even in those times, I remember, and minta maaf kalau coach embarrass you, you were also socially aware of how you can use those resources to actually help people with their rations and cross those borders, because you were physically able to do that at this team. And in turn, your team, those who were solely dependent on you, were actually able to generate some income in spite of those,
Yeah.
those trying times lah.
Yeah, but I think out of COVID, at least for me, it changed the way I look at how business should be run, at least at the event side, because it used to be before COVID, everybody high OPEX, 70 orang dekat staff, 100 orang internally, like everyone on payroll, OPEX 300,000 a month, with all the sewa and everything. When COVID happens, I think unfortunately a lot of event managers had to close down, especially the big ones, because of the loans and to maintain. A lot of people get laid off and all. And then after COVID ends, we say, kalau we want to do this, because I love events. I think I love events. I think we cakap tak boleh buat cara yang sama. And also now people are a bit more careful in terms of spending. They want to optimize their costs. We also want to give the best value. So we change the model a bit. And of course, macam Ellisha cakap, we were kind of brainwashed about this notion of nation building. That hits home. That really until today, this nation building in our own way, we always have that in mind. So for us, it's about developing our team. So those days, everybody, earning in terms of salary and whatnot. So now we try and change, not only with our team but also with our suppliers. So everybody now set up your own small enterprise. I'm still asking them to open. Some of them degil tak nak open.
Belum lagi.
But we are still we are hoping that everybody open their own, and then we as the event producers, we are the one that connect the clients and the service industry. So we create the opportunities. We try and secure it, try and win it, and then we try and pass the jobs around, share it, do together. And some of these suppliers, so-called our vendors, some of them become really big.
Yes.
And get jobs from the like of Kazana and all. So we are so proud. Some of them become our competitor. But it's okay. The market is big. So that gives me this. Sometimes I fikir macam, do I really like events, or I feel like now I like building this. It gives me a lot of reason to wake up in the morning. Knowing that everyone like growing. I'm trying to do my small mentoring with them.
No, you're doing well.
And they are very talented. And now kids nowadays, not everyone wants to go to work, right? So they like entrepreneurship. When I look at them, they are like my go-to when I need inspiration, because you guys can vouch, all the entrepreneurs can vouch, when things is very hard as an entrepreneur, sometimes you don't know who to talk to. So when I look at Ellisha growing, try well, and I look at Noreen growing and reinventing herself, I'm like, okay, maybe my problem is not that big.
You're not saying this, but what I've also observed is DW has grown in terms of brand recognition. Both you and Damien, alhamdulillah, have put your real effort and with your team and your spouses to really make an effort of this. But alhamdulillah, today what I see I am so proud when I see major events involving the King, the Prime Minister, national level events, from where we were so many years ago, to be up there with the big boys. And it's not just that, alhamdulillah, it's not about just doing an event now. It's more of seeing the outcome, seeing the smiles on our clients, being satisfied that our most recent effort is getting better and better. Bukan riak tau, tapi kita kena usaha. That whatever we do has got to be, insyaAllah, because we are sometimes we are as good as our last job, kan?
If you may, Coach, if I may add on a bit on that note, I used to think that any event success has to depend on me. I have to be there, I have to make sure the camera is set up nicely, everything must be, in perfection. If you ask my team, I'm quite,
Particular.
OCD, you call it, in that sense, yeah. But recently I realized that actually I can do even better if my team actually leads it. So that's the change of pattern from last year. So now we are training all the team. So I'm very proud to say that even the executive producers at DW now, they has reached a point where I literally don't have to be there during the setup and all. They are good enough. They can do certain things better than me. So in terms of event management, you're actually only as good as your team and your panel of suppliers. So it's very important for us to grow both together. And I'm very happy that they're very receptive. Mula-mula I think they orang suspend sikit lah to take up the bigger role. And now I see my team going to the CEOs and salam hi, okay, maybe a bit too berani, but it's fine. Yeah, but they are handling it very well. I'm very proud of my team actually.
And congratulations.
Could I add, Dan? I think DW has been an instrumental part of ThriveWell's growth. But before that, I would like to just share, because we all had this shared experience with the late Encik Rozali Nordin, the director of the Renong Scholarship Group. I think he was also instrumental lah in the development of us. And I was struggling academically actually at that time, getting C's and D's before 6 months before A levels.
Really good,
yeah.
Ellisha.
And then and we always have this like meeting with Encik Rozali. Everybody sit there and he'll pull up the grades, everyone's grades on the white the projector screen. So and then she's like, okay, and I'm already like dying there, like, oh my god, I'm gonna be picked on. Why, And I still remember this. He said, okay, let's look at the grades. And he called out all the A students.
Okay.
So we know lah the Novans,
Dan,
Aziz,
Nik,
Chowki,
semua
the rest.
I team Ellisha.
I don't want to buy yeah. So the few of them, and he's like, stand up. What are you doing about this?
What are you doing about this?
About the C's and D's. So the lesson, I think, from there, I was like, kesiannya, why are they being scolded for us? But he's like, you are a team.
Yeah.
So if you are ahead, you're leaving these people behind. So after that, we had study groups and all that. So I managed to get B's and C's for my A levels, which alhamdulillah, my parents were so happy. But I think that lesson from there is that during COVID, we were struggling. We just started the company, moving it out from an NGO, and Dan was there to support us, teaching us, okay, BD is like this, like you need to do this Excel, all that. I'm like, okay. And I think for our community team, because we had the opportunity of, at that time, the community really needed events.
Exactly.
Because they were so fragmented and the point. And actually events was the mental health support they need. And when DW team came, my entire team, mostly mental professionals, even to select supplier punya quotation pun dia like apa ni, balloons apa ni. So Dan and the DW team really walked us through that process. So now I think our community team, they're able to manage small events. Big events still belum lah, of course, and we don't intend to. But I think that mentorship, that guidance that they gave us really make me feel I could sleep at night at least. And I know that the communities actually get what we intend to do, because our intention is to provide support. But if we do a bad event, we're not going to be able to deliver it well. So I think thank you so much for DW for being with us, even though thank you so much.
But I have to add that at ThriveWell, we work with the whole team work with ThriveWell team. We saw how you grow from very little people and then until ramai sekarang. I think ThriveWell has probably the best team around.
Yeah,
like kudos to them.
Team, right from the intern, right, sampai the what do you call it, clinical,
the mental practitioners.
The different specialists.
And they came from all sort of backgrounds, and they came together. If you see during events, how 40 of them came in, and the most beauty thing I see during events, we are talking about it. For example, jaga game boost, right? My team can vouch for this. If we jaga, we'll just baling. Okay, throw the ball 3 kali. Okay, dapat hadiah teddy bear, that's it. But they came in and really, okay, tarik nafas dulu. How do you think today? And I think that affect us a bit. Because when we do our thing, we teringat balik macam because you can see when they do their thing, when they reach out to the community, they really mean it. They really want to improve lives. They just don't go there and just nak buat asal boleh, they call it. I think that also boils down straight to the management of travel, starting from Ellisha, how they think, and I think it
translates to that.
Yeah, it translates that.
Which brings me to the point actually. So this morning, as we are shooting in front of a live audience, it's actually coinciding with one of your core activities, and maybe an event. Can you just maybe tell us, and later on we'll show some footage of it actually going after this. But tell us a bit more. What is it exactly you program for this morning?
So this morning, after the podcast, we will open up the human library, and this is part of our advocacy efforts, because we know in terms of mental health, stigma is very high, and how do we overcome this prejudice or bias is actually through having the in-person conversations with either people with lived experience, meaning those who have gone through their own recovery journey, or parents of those who have children who need that support, or even the mental practitioners, because a lot of them think like, oh, pergi jumpa psychologist ni scary ya. Actually when they start talking to me, oh, manusia biasa je, like normal, just like you. So the idea of the human library is that when you have this interaction, you'll be able to address those prejudices or stigma that you may have, and hopefully after the interaction, so meaning the Thrive-Well people are the books, the human books, and our guests are, you know, people who come to this library, the readers. And that you have, at least you leave with a better insight about what mental health is, what mental practitioner is. And the other part where another group of member of our 7th cohort, Sonia Chi, who's currently the GM of BFM, we also have a podcast, because we know sometimes in person Friday morning kan macam ni orang tak boleh datang, so we have a podcast with the producer Tisha Wick on a monthly basis, and we feature similarly those with either lived experience or parents or anyone that has some, you know, even in leadership as well as their coaching. And Nik has really graciously also shared her experience as caregiver and parent journey. Thank you so much, Nik, for sharing your story.
Actually, thank you to Ellisha for that opportunity, because if I may add, mental health is very close to me as well. I'm a parent of a neurodiverse child, and recently we have quite a challenge in the family concerning health, which leads to, you know, anxiety and such. So that's how when I got to face this kind of issue, the first thing, of course lah, Ellisha. So I was blessed to have a good friend in this in this field. But it also makes me think that what if you don't have an Ellisha in your life? And that's like generally the population. So that's how I also started to connect with Thrive-Well, and I feel that being I was the human library before, and I feel that because I actually benefited from human library before. When I first found out about my child having this ADHD, I went to one of her program, and I was overwhelmed. To tell you frankly, I was overwhelmed. But then each and every individual during the session made me feel like, oh, you're not alone, you know, and you came to the right place, and it's okay if you crumble and whatnot. Because this is life, and to have an avenue for that, that's really marvelous. So I really recommend that those out there who might have a feeling that I might want to see someone, I need to talk to someone, I don't feel good about myself, or I have this suspicion about my kid and such, do connect. And Thrive-Well is definitely a very good avenue for that, because they really lend me a support, not only to manage my experience, but now that I'm completely so that I also want to advocate this to those around me.
So the idea is mainly to the program actually is called Can We Talk?
Can we talk?
It's just that basically, can we start talking about our struggles, our issues openly and in a safe way?
And you know, there is that empathy and feeling of being wanted and heard.
Yes.
Congratulations. You know, this session this morning, for me, even as a coach, It's so enlightening. I may feel I've known you for so many years, but so many lessons and insights I'm actually feeling for myself. So thank you so much. After this, there's going to be a dedicated session where Ellisha and her team will host Can We Talk by Thrive Well. So, please, after this, feel free to continue on. But to Dan, Nik, Ellisha, thank you once again. Alhamdulillah.
Coach, I think I'm gonna stop you for a while. I think I'll be the host kejap. Just last question if you don't mind.
Okay.
I think because for the audience,
time's up.
for the audience who doesn't know Coach well like we do, he was not only our boss, but he's also our mentor, right, to most of us. We always wonder because Coach is not just our mentor di office, but even after we left, you still keep on going, mentoring us who were nobody. Literally like from tak ada apa-apa sampai where we are now, we are still growing. Not only us, I think you help a lot of people. We always wonder, Coach. The question goes to you. Like why would you do it? Like you always say in reflection. Like why you do it? Like it is beyond what you, because
Actually,
what do you see and
well, wow, you're putting me on the spot here.
Cuba cerita.
No, but actually, when I love it when we talk about our parents, because Alhamdulillah, I was blessed with a lovely mother and father, and whenever I meet people today, they will always remember my mother, for example, who was a nursing sister in the University Malaya Students' Health Clinic. And she was one who all the students, I never knew this, she would always go and help them and be like a mother to everyone. So I remember that. My father, he had the loudest laugh. I would tell people that, in those days we used to go to Subang Airport. We could go up to the balcony and watch the airplanes taking off, and the engines would be at their highest rev and noise. His laugh was louder than that. So now that we're talking about parents, I think there was a lot of care and love in both my parents and my brother too. I ni dua beradik je. And I think maybe that was always in me. Everyone has got their love and care. As long as I'm no different. But coming back to what I do, I think I was trained as a technical professional, an engineer, and I went all the way to postgrads. But I've always had this people thing in me. I love to be surrounded with people. I love to work with teams, and maybe because of that, I was passionate about. And of course, I always admire your generations. You're so bright and energetic and full of ideas. It sort of like kept me in touch. So even in my later years, when I left UEM and I was with Corn Ferry, it was always at people. But to cut the story short, I think today what makes me thrive is the ability to continue to engage with people. I'm fascinated. So Cuba Cerita actually was when I became so fascinated with the stories, I needed to find a medium to share these stories with everyone, And the beauty of it is, irrespective of our age, these stories are timeless. For years and years to come. These stories can be replayed over and people will be able to relate. So in a way, ni dah sikit amalan jariah kita jugalah di hujung harinya kan. But thank you, Dan, for putting me on the spot.
But on behalf of all everyone, we would like to thank Coach for everything you've done.
Thank you so much.
So thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you those who are watching and tuning in. We hope that the stories that you heard today will inspire you. It doesn't mean those of you who are in the corporate world, you need to leave your job immediately and come out, because you can still be just as effective and inspiring and energetic from wherever you are. So with that, we conclude this particular episode of Cuba Cerita. Thank you once again for joining us. The Merdeka in me is in every one of us. Please support us by continuing to subscribe, drop comments, and we look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Sehingga itu, Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera, insyaAllah kita berjumpa lagi. Terima kasih banyak.